Hi, I'm Julia. Welcome to the Writer's Room again. Today I have the third part of a story that my husband and I wrote together about our hiking north on the Appalachian Trail. It's pretty short, but it's definitely more telling of some of the things that I talked about before in our past stories and experiences that we had while hiking. Here we go. The title is North Towards the Berkshires. The trail is steep and rocky, with rain that is souring our mood today. We hike on, though, determined to meet our goal of 600 miles walking the Appalachian Trail north. We will hike through 6 states in total to arrive at a wedding we have to attend upon reaching Massachusetts. Timing will be of great importance to arrive by August 22nd. We have determined that we must hike a minimum of 12 miles a day to be on time. We have finally crossed over into Pennsylvania from Maryland at the official marker of the Mason-Dixon line. We feel elated and hopeful that we are becoming real hikers, and quite possibly will attain our goal in just 6 weeks. Having entered Pennsylvania, we find this section of the trail is easy enough for the most part, even at times meandering into and through a town for easy walking. With each town crossing, we must resupply our food needs to sustain us for 4 or 5 days out in the woods. We always take this opportunity to find a pizza joint and order 2 large pies with everything. And for good measure, we order chicken wings too. Hikers consume large amounts of food when in town because of the incessant hunger that is always present within. Pennsylvania is known for its rocks, coal, anthracite, and thousands of varieties of metamorphic rocks which are prevalent on and near the mountains of the state. Hikers find the rocks are cumbersome and at times dangerous. Pennsylvania is proving to be the most difficult and painful for our feet and center of balance. The mountains, though, are mostly rolling hills with very few difficult climbs, and most always picture-perfect summits that show lush valleys below that burst with green fields and row upon row of tall corn stalks. Today we have the view of the Susquehanna River as we approach the town of Duncannon, with its long forgotten mills and factories, would prove a challenge to get to today. When we start down into the town below, we find the descent is jagged and strewn with various sized rocks. The trail closely hugs a ravine that could prove fatal if we do not pay close attention to each step we take. I sidestep down the trail with its gravelly sand and stone that tend to slide under my shoes. I look back at Nick. He is also using a shuffle sidestep. Like a choreographed dance, we descend the cliffside. He looks up to meet my gaze and says, "This ain't a walk through the wheat field. This is pay a close attention or you're dead kind of walk." I nod my head in agreement and keep the pace in lockstep with his. When reaching the bottom, finally, we unceremoniously enter a barren parking lot of a dilapidated commercial building. There are vines and tree roots sprawling about the concrete sides of the structure. Small trees and many weeds make a nice canopy over and through it, giving it the appearance that nature is taking it back and replacing it with new life. Walking through town, we find our AT markers on telephone poles, corners of bridges, railings, and of course, on large rocks too. We resupplied a small grocery store on our way about meandering around Duncannon, and finally arrived near the edge of town, where it gives access to a narrow path that ramps up and dumps down onto the Susquehanna River Bridge. The bridge is long and wide, with 4 lanes across. The bridge connects a highway to the smaller towns and cities around it. As we begin to traverse the bridge, dark clouds roll in and change the afternoon light to a Halloween at dusk-like event. There is lightning crisscrossing the sky, loud claps ascend onto the valley of thunder, and boomerang against the mountains around us. Rain falls in big, heavy drops. We need to run. Our heavy packs bounce against our butts, encumbering our strides, making it very difficult. The bridge begins to sway and bounce with each car and tractor-trailer truck as they zip past us at 75 miles an hour. I'm not kidding you. With the bridge just a few feet above the waterway, we find it incredibly daunting to also be dodging the sprays that the river is throwing at us during the storm. Immediately coming off the bridge, finally, we hop the guardrail and onto the trail once again. We are thoroughly drenched, a bit shaken from our race against the elements, but we find ourselves entering the woods and it being a peaceful welcome. There is a long, steep ascent up Peters Mountain we must commit to. The trail is muddy with small streams flowing down it as we make our way to the summit. When we finally reach the top, a heavy fog settles in. It has saved us from looking back down onto Duncannon in its perilous bridge walkover we encountered. That fog. Now we are back into the safety of the woods and the noise of civilization is starting to cease. The birds are chirping away as if there is no rain or dark clouds. Lightning does not deter their chattering songs either. I feel the same joy to be out here, going farther and further away from civilization and its real-world noises. I let out a long sigh of relief and have a renewed sense of appreciation for the woods and the trail. The rain begins to weaken to just a drizzle. We stop and strip off our packs and unceremoniously dump them on the ground. We take off our rain covers and stuff them into two side pockets on our packs. I say to Nick, "That bridge crossing was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my life." Nick replies, "Well, let's hope that will be the one and only time we have to cross a bridge like that." We have a nice rest and a few snacks, and then we decide it's time to move on and finish the day with 7 more miles to go to get to the Peters Mountain shelter and set up our tent. No more than 15 minutes later, we run into a mother bear and her 2 cubs. How nice. If only the bridge crossing in the thunderstorm could be done over again, it would have been a welcome experience to repeat. We would learn over the next several weeks that bears would be the least of our worries. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake would prove to be more of a problem, and a scarier one at that. They are camouflaged against the leaves and dirt along the trail that we must tread upon while crossing over on our way to the Berkshire Mountains of Massachusetts, and then on to the nuptials that await. Thanks for listening today. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was a lot more fun to write in the moment of like how we experienced it in the bridge, which was incredibly scary, and it was longer than how I wrote it to be. It took us a good 15 minutes to get across that, and the storm was impressive though. And we thought we were just so safe once we got to the other side. We're back into the woods, and this is our first bear experience too. So it was really just heart pounding, and what do we do? And the bears that we saw, the mother and the 2 cubs, they just like kept, they crossed our path in front of us and were just running down the mountain as we were ascending up, but it was still really scary. That would be just the first of many. We saw 5, 6 or 7 of them by the time we got to Massachusetts. But the rattlesnakes, those are the ones that are frightening because they blend in so well with the surroundings, with the leaves, rocks. They like to sun themselves, so sometimes that was easier because they'd be on a rock sunning themselves like right in the middle of the path throughout Pennsylvania. And you'd come upon them, and that would be really scary. If they were relaxed, they'd be stretched out, but when they're coiled up, Nick found this. He saw 2 one day when we had, I walked ahead, maybe half a mile or so. We were just like needed a break from each other. But he saw 2 of them, and one of them was quite relaxed, but one of them was coiled up. And when they coil, they can strike. But he knew what to do and back up and go way around, and it was fine then. Anyways, we did have, there is more to it because we did go on from Pennsylvania into New Jersey, then into New York, then into Connecticut, and then finally into Massachusetts at the end, and we did make it for the wedding. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for subscribing. Anyone has any questions, please send them our way, and we'd be happy to answer them. And with that, I'd like to wish you good thoughts, and to say good words, and to do good deeds.